We, the taxpayers, have spoken. We have made clear our goals. Now.
It's Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party on 560 KSFO and 790 KABC. We need you. Get your petition now at repealthedeathtax.com.
Get your petition at repealthedeathtax.com. Hi, everybody. My name is Susan Shelley. I am the Vice President of Communications for the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and this is the Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party. I'm honored to be joined today by my colleague Scott Kaufman, who is in Sacramento. Hi, Scott. He's our Legislative Director for HJTA. How's everything in Sacramento?
Oh, just fine and dandy, Susan, although it's getting cold up here. Apparently it's going to be cold everywhere, one of those polar vortexes or whatever.
Well, if we're going to pay these taxes, we should get our warm weather. So we have to repeal at least one of these taxes just because it's cold. So let's do that. Let's do that today. We have a bunch of announcements. First of all, welcome everybody. We are live up and down the state of California from Lake Tahoe to San Diego Mission Bay. We are on 790 KABC in the Los Angeles area and throughout Southern California. We're on 560 KSFO in the Bay Area. And you can listen on AM radio or text your friends, call your relatives. You can listen on your phone at kabc.com and ksfo.com on the stream. And let me tell you what we're up to here today. We are going to repeal the biggest property tax increase in the history of California. Where did this come from, you're wondering? Well, what happened is that in 2020, while everyone thought this particular ballot measure was all about wildfire victims, it had some fine print that took away your right to transfer property between parents and children without any change to the tax bill. You had that right for more than 3 decades, that you could transfer your home of any value plus a certain amount of other property, up to $1 million of assessed value of other property. You could transfer. So that could be a vacation cabin, or it could be a small business property, or it could be an apartment building that maybe you bought years ago for income in your retirement. And the assessed value is less than $1 million, even though the market value is much higher, but you're protected by Proposition 13. For 30-some years, that was your right to transfer that to your kids without having that considered a change of ownership, because it was still in the family. And it wasn't like a sale to an outside person who was voluntarily paying that price. It was an inheritance or a family transfer. So the tax bill would stay the same. Well, now that's gone. That protection is gone. Where did it go? It was in the fine print of Proposition 19 in 2020 that the protection for parent-child transfers was repealed, removed from the Constitution. Nobody even knew that. People were told, oh, this isn't a tax increase. It was totally a tax increase. It was a huge tax increase. What happens when your property gets reassessed to market value and your new property tax bill is 1% of that new market value in California with the prices the way they are, with inflation pushing everything up? What happens to your family when they have to pay that tax bill? They're going to have to sell the property if they can't come up with that money. And not just once. Property taxes every year, as a condition of keeping what you already own. So the legacy you've built to leave to your kids, whether it's rental property or it's just the home that they want to keep, but maybe they don't want to move into it right away, reassess to market value. Even if they want to sell it, for the year that it takes to settle the estate between the date of transfer and the close of escrow, they owe 1% of the current market value as of the date of transfer. This is the worst policy I have ever seen in California, and that is saying something. This is crushing people. So what are we doing? We're the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. We protect people from giant, unpredictable, ruinous, catastrophic tax increases on their property. That's what we do here. We are collecting signatures for a ballot measure to put the repeal of this tax on the ballot in November. And you can help. You can get the petition in your house. You can print it on any printer. Download it from the internet. It's 1 page. You print it on one regular sheet of letter-sized paper. You fill it out. You mail it to us. Do it fast because the deadline is approaching. But we have had some really great news. Let me just give you the phone number before I do that. You can call us at 1-800-222-5222. We're taking your calls. We're live, the whole state of California, live in the whole state with the Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party. The website is repealthedeathtax.com to get the petition. 800-222-5222 is the phone number. And we have some announcements. In addition to this being our first simulcast statewide, we hit an important milestone this week. Tell us about it, Scott.
Well, we hit 25%, Susan. Well, probably more than 25% at this point. We're still counting. They're coming in by the bucket load now, so we're pretty excited about that. But, we're moving pretty fast now, so hopefully, knock on wood, that they're gonna come in big enough, fast enough for us to qualify this thing.
So the 25% threshold, this is a relatively new law. It doesn't date all the way back to 1911 like the rest of the initiative process. But what it says is that when you hit that threshold, the legislature has to be alerted that you're up to something, that you're doing something. So this is important because it's a significant marker that says we're serious and we're really doing this. Now, the thing is, 25% is not enough. And we had set a deadline for everyone to get the petitions back to us by the 16th of January, which is Tuesday. But we have an announcement. We are extending the deadline to February 5th. We have until February 5th, postmarked by February 5th. So if you're holding on to petitions and you thought it was too late to send them, it's not too late, send them. And if you have blank petitions and you're collecting signatures, go ahead and then send them. But send them fast because it does take time to open all these envelopes, sort all this paper. This is the 1911 initiative process, so it has to be paper, it has to be ink, it has to be delivered physically to the counties. We can't scan anything, we can't email anything. You can email the blank petition and then fill it out in ink, but you have to print it on paper, and you have to fill it out in ink, and you have to mail it to us or drop it off. And that is how we're going to do this. We need about 1 million signatures to make sure we have enough because the actual number of valid signatures is just about 875,000. So that's the story. February 5th is the deadline. That means you still have time to text everyone you know, to call everyone you know, to tell everybody that we're going to fix this problem. But we don't have forever. This has to be done by the deadline. We have to drive to the county offices and drop these off on the 20th of February because that's the absolute end. So get them postmarked to us by February 5th, and that will fix the problem. We need 1 million signatures or more to make sure we have enough valid signatures, and then we'll be able to fix this. And when we fix this, here's what you're going to have. The old rules back again. So you will be able to transfer a home of any value plus up to $1 million of assessed value of other property to your kids without any change to the tax bill. And the same rules will apply for grandparents and grandchildren if the children's parents are deceased, because that used to be the law, and Proposition 19 took that away too. And we are making this retroactive, so that if you were burned by this, anytime after the 16th of February when it took effect in 2021, if you were burned by a parent-child transfer, you will be able to get your original assessed value reinstated. We can't get you a refund for what you paid in the interim, but we can get you the base value that you had that you lost back again. So that's what we're doing. And this is probably the most important thing that you're going to hear today, because this will protect not just your family, but millions of Californians who don't even know they are at risk. They don't even know. People who are tenants who live in apartment buildings that are owned by mom and pop landlords. When that generation passes and the kids inherit the house or inherit the small apartment building, reassess to current market value. In places like San Jose, Santa Monica, San Diego, it's going to be crazy high. That's a crazy high tax bill, and people can't pay it. So they're going to sell the building in many cases. And then what happens to the tenants? They're out. They don't even know this is happening. Suddenly the building will be sold, and they'll have no idea why. It's this horrible death tax. Now, why do we call it a death tax? Because you get the letter from the assessor's office in the mail with the sympathy cards. It's horrible. It's horrible. At the worst time in your life, you have to go make big financial decisions about what you're going to sell or what you're going to keep or where you're going to move. This is horrible, and we have to fix it. 800-222-5222 is our phone number. We're going to take some calls in just a moment. I just want to tell you again that you can download the petition from the website at repealthedeathtax.com, and it's very easy. Scott, how easy is it to follow the directions that we've put together?
Well, according to the directions, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Yes, it is.
So it's very easy. Oh, and Susan, I want to add one thing. You were mentioning, you were talking about how the taxes are reassessed on date of transfer, and that's a very nice way of putting date of death. The day the parent dies is the day your taxes are reassessed. Yeah. That's why we call it a death tax.
It's horrible. It is just horrible. And the assessors don't like it either because they don't want to send out these letters to people. They don't want to get these phone calls from distraught families who didn't know about this. They don't want any part of this, but they don't have a choice. And something else that's happening is because these claims are very complicated to process. The assessors under Prop 13 don't have to assess every property that's transferred because it's the sale price, and then it's basically the computer kicks in with the cost of living increase or 2% cap a year. They don't have to go out and assess every property, but now they do because they have to know what these are worth. There's only $1 million of protection in Prop 19 for someone who moves into their parents' residence. Supposedly, this wasn't going to hurt you if your parents left you their home. It was their principal residence. It became your principal residence. Supposedly, this wasn't going to hurt you. But guess what? They capped it. So there's only a $1 million additional value cap on the protection. And then if you have a house that's appreciated more than that, more than the current taxable value plus $1 million, everything above that, 1% of that amount is added to your old assessment. So you could see thousands of dollars in tax increase every year, even if you upend your life, move into your parents' house, fill out all the paperwork, do everything. You could still get a huge tax increase. And because these claims are complicated, even if you don't owe anything, they may still tell you to write a check because it's going to take a couple years for them to catch up. And you owe those taxes in the meantime until they catch up with the claims. Horrible. Worst policy I've ever seen in California. And that is a high bar or a low one. Let's take a call. Let's talk to Karen in Dana Point. Hi, Karen.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Thanks for calling.
I have just a question about mailing the form. Does it have to be mailed flat in a large envelope? And also, how many petitions per envelope can we stick into one envelope?
You can stick as many in as the postage will cover, and they can be folded. That's not a problem at all. So as long as they arrive without being torn, and as long as everything is filled out and nothing is left blank, you have to be sure. Let me just mention that when you're doing this, you are your own circulator on these. So some people don't understand that they have to fill out the part at the bottom. We have it in the instructions, but people are always in a hurry. So here's what you do. You write the county where you are registered to vote, and then you write your name and your address where you're registered to vote, and the city and zip, and you sign it as the voter. And then below that is the declaration of circulator. You are your own circulator. You are the person with the clipboard standing in front of Costco or Target or Walmart or the supermarket. You are the circulator. So all that means is you have to fill out that little form, your name and address, and the dates that you collected the signature, and where you're signing the declaration, which is where you're sitting at that moment, whatever city you're in at that moment, and the date, and you sign that, and you're done. And you put as many of them in an envelope as you can fit. You can fold them. You can send them flat. You can do it any way that works for you. But they do have to be physically mailed. We can't have them scanned and sent. We need the physical paper with the wet signature, as they say. Thank you, Karen. Let's talk to Anthony in Sherman Oaks. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, how's it going? So I bought my house from my grandmother, and I was also reassessed. She was alive at the moment. She passed away a few years ago. But I was reassessed, and I was wondering, does this also apply to me? Should I have been reassessed, or is there a law there that I can kind of get the the amount I paid for the house?
Well, let me see. The law is fair market value. So if you had like a family...
Would you like me to answer that, Susan?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay, so the answer is yes, you also fall under this. The Prop 19, the death tax, they call it an intergenerational transfer, right? So before Prop 19, it didn't require death for the transfer to occur. Your parent or grandparent could transfer a property to you while they were still alive. You could actually transfer a property to them. It worked. The intergenerational transfer worked both ways. So yes, so you fall under this too, because this is the same thing. I think a lot of people think it requires death. It does not require death. You can transfer before, but you're still going to fall under this new rule. So if if we change it back, you would also be able to file a claim. That our measure is retroactive. You'll be able to file a claim and get the previous tax base back. But for right now, you are also under Prop 19.
So one follow-up question. My mother is still alive. Would that jeopardize any of the assessed value, or is it?
Oh, well, that's a different matter. Yeah. So the grandparent to grandchild transfer only works if your parent is deceased. You can't jump a generation. So it looks like you would have gotten reassessed even under the old law. If your grandparent had passed it to your mom and then your mom had passed it to you, that would have all been fine. But because you jumped while your mom was still alive, it doesn't count. It's a silly rule, but that's the way it was and that's the way it's been. Unfortunately. So yeah, it looks like you're going to get reassessed. I'm sad to say, but there's a lot of folks in a similar situation that would really appreciate a signature from you just so we can fix it.
What year did you buy your grandmother's house, Anthony?
It was in 2021.
Before February, well, it doesn't matter if it's February 15th because Prop 19 doesn't apply here. Well, if you think that you were assessed at too high a value, you can appeal an assessor's assessment of your property. This is true for everybody. If you are reassessed and you think that they picked a number that was too high, you can challenge that. You can appeal that. So that's an option if you think it isn't right.
Okay. Well, thanks for the information. I kind of figured, but I figure I'd call in again.
Well, appreciate it. And we appreciate it. As Scott said, we appreciate it if you help us spread the word so we can fix this for as many people as possible. Thanks very much for the call. Let's talk to Gerald in Huntington Beach. Hi, Gerald. Are you there?
Hello.
Hi, Gerald. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm all right. I don't understand what the rules are on, I guess, the new law, right? Is this law that says they got to be recessed, that's in force now?
Yes. What okay. The old rules were, this goes back to 1986. The parent-child transfer exclusion from reassessment dates to 1986, and it happened because people who were inheriting property a few years after Prop 13 was passed, and the assessed value was lower than the market value, but then the inheritance was considered by the legislature to be just the same as a sale. It was considered a change of ownership just as if it had gone on the market. And people were so upset because the tax bills were going up that the legislature did something about it. The legislature put something on the ballot that was the parent-child transfer exclusion, and it passed unanimously in the legislature. Unanimously, not a single vote against it, not one. And then the voters approved it by a 75 to 25 margin, 75% approval. That's unheard of. And now it's gone. So under the old rules, you could transfer a home of any value and up to $1 million of assessed value of other property, as I said, a business, an apartment, a duplex, and that did not have any change to the tax bill if it was between parents and children. Those were the old rules. Prop 19 took that away. Now the rules are all the property that is transferred from parents to children reassessed to market value as of the date of transfer. As Scott said, whether a death is involved or not, if it's transferred, market value reassessment, with one exception. And the exception is if the parent's principal residence becomes the child's principal residence within 1 year and permanently. Because if you move out again, reassess to market value. It's so tricky.
Okay, that's the point that I'm in a discussion with someone. The other person said that there is this little clause in there that said if the heir to the property moves into it and lives there, then it's not reassessed.
Well, it sort of is reassessed. They have to look at the value, because if it's more than $1 million of increased value, then everything above that is a tax increase. You only get a limited capped break. So, in many areas in the Bay Area and Southern California, these houses have appreciated so much and long-held property.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go. For every
the houses where I live are running 1.3 to 1.5 mil.
Well, there you go. So if someone had a $200,000,
they all sold originally for like $30,000.
Okay, so if someone had that property for a long time and maybe the assessed value is $200,000, and they do all the things right and they move into their parents' residence, they get $1.2 million of exclusion, the $200,000 that it was assessed at plus the $1 million. Everything above that, 1% of that amount is added to the tax bill. So you could get a huge tax increase. And of course, property taxes every year as a condition of keeping what you already own. It's not like an estate tax once with a big exclusion to make sure it doesn't hit people who are not wealthy. Nope, it's everybody. Whether you're wealthy or not, whether it's a beach mansion or it's a 3-bedroom house, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Everybody is hit by this at the worst possible time in your life, when you've just lost a parent and you get this letter. It's absolutely outrageous, and it has to be stopped. It has to be stopped. Let's talk to Jeff in Long Beach. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, how are you?
Fine.
I'm a notary, and I ran into this when I was doing some working, obviously. I was notarizing documents to close some property that was being transferred in, I believe it was L.A. County, possibly Orange County. But I noticed that the children, their tax person was telling them just to sell the property because they weren't going to be able to afford the taxes that they were going to be hit with. So since then, I've been going around trying to get people to sign this petition, but a lot of people don't understand that their trust does not protect them from this.
I'm so glad.
They all think because it's in a trust, it's protected.
I'm so glad you brought this up. You're absolutely right. People think that a trust protects them from property tax reassessment, but here's the thing. It never did. The assessors look through the trust to see the present beneficial owners, and then they reassess on the basis of that. What was protecting people with parent-child trusts was Proposition 58 from 1986, the parent-child transfer exclusion from reassessment. So you're exactly right. Trusts do not protect you. Thank you very much for the call, and thank you for collecting signatures.
I had a phone call today from someone who was out collecting signatures, and they came across someone that said, I have a trust, I'm not worried about this. And they said, no, your trust doesn't protect you. And they said, oh, it doesn't, does it? And they called their attorney there on the spot, and the attorney said, no, it doesn't protect you. And they said, okay, I'll sign.
Wow. They didn't believe us, and then they had to go pay legal fees. See, you can trust us. We're not lawyers. I do want to tell everybody just the standard disclaimer that whenever you transfer property in California or anywhere, always talk to an accountant or an attorney about the tax consequences, not just the property tax consequences, because if you transfer property when someone is still living, you have capital gains to think about. So be really careful. Don't just put people on the title or take people off the title. You can trigger property tax reassessment with that. And you can also trigger capital gains tax if you transfer property. So just be aware that it's more complicated and expensive than you think, and always talk to a trained professional, an attorney or an accountant or someone you trust who knows about this stuff before you make any hasty decisions. That's always a good idea, just in general. So to reiterate here today, you're going to go to repealthedeathtax.com, repealthedeathtax.com. Send that link to everyone you know. We can get 1 million signatures in 2 days if everybody does that. RepealTheDeathTax.com. Download the petition, print it on your printer at home, or call a relative and say, do you have a printer that's working, and make them print it and then go and pick it up. Sign the petition, mail it back to us as fast as you can, and we will get this on the ballot November 2024, retroactive. We will protect you from these tax increases. This is the Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party. Phone number is 800-222-5222, 800-222-5222, and we'll be right back after this.
AM 790.
KABC News at 6:30. I'm Sharon Reardon. Good evening. Los Angeles Police Chief Michael Moore is retiring at the end of February.
He spoke while standing next to Mayor Karen Bass.
Today I am announcing my decision to retire as Chief of Police of this great city, effective at the end of February.
The announcement was expected, but not this soon and not with that short timeline. Moore recently denied an LA Times report that he investigated Bass a year ago regarding her time at the now embattled USC School of Social Work. Kevin Tripp, KABC News.
A former LA County Sheriff's deputy who was initially charged with voluntary manslaughter for the on-duty shooting of a man in Willowbrook pleaded no contest today to a pair of lesser felony charges. 39-year-old Andrew Lyons was immediately sentenced to 30 days in jail and 2 years probation. The voluntary manslaughter charge against Lyons was dropped as part of his plea agreement. And a motorist was wounded today in a shooting on the 405 in the Sherman Oaks area. It happened near Burbank Boulevard around 5 this morning. The CHP says the man was taken to the hospital. His condition is unknown. No description was available of a suspect or vehicle, and there was no known motive for the shooting. An investigation is underway. The markets close mix today.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
News sponsored by unbound.org. KABC SoCal weather. Tonight is mostly clear with lows in the 40s. Sunshine tomorrow with highs in the 60s. Currently 56 degrees in Corona, 54 in Culver City. If most of the media makes you shake your head, you're right at home here. Thanks for choosing fast-paced, fact-based 790 KABC. Traffic up next.
Hi, I'm John Cruikshank, running for Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors in the 4th District. Do you want to save Los Angeles? Tune in Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. with myself and Mike Netter to hear how.
AM 790 KABC.
KABC dependable traffic right now in Diamond Bar. This is on the 60 westbound at Diamond Bar Boulevard. We have a crash in the carpool in 2 left lanes. Your drive is stacking up right around Phillips Ranch Road. And in Willowbrook, this is on the 105 eastbound right before Wilmington. Cleanup crews from an earlier crash taking up the carpool lane. You are seeing delays right around the 405. And in Riverside, this is on the 215 northbound at Martin Luther King Boulevard. We have a crash there taking up the carpool lane. CHP's on the scene. Watch for delays as you approach. In the Cajon Pass, 15 northbound, right at the 138, we have a crash in the middle lanes there. You're seeing delays from Summit Avenue. That's dependable traffic. I'm Brian Vance, AM 790 KABC.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-364-1031 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-364-1031. That's 800-364-1031. What do you have to lose? Call 800-364-1031. Again, 800-364-1031.
Paseo Oaks Pharmacy specializes in compounding dermatological preparations, veterinarian formulations, anti-aging, and hormone replacement therapy. Our pharmacists have over 20 years of compounding experience. We beat our competitors' prices. For quick and easy transfer of your prescriptions, call us at 800-991-6509. That's 800-991-6509. Or visit us at PaseoRx.com. That's PASEORX.com.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun. So you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
Start learning a new language today. Go to Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
We wish we could wave a magic wand and make everything beautiful.
In the news today, the homelessness crisis has been solved. Inflation is a thing of the past, and Roxy gave birth to 3 adorable puppies.
That's not true.
They're lying on the news.
We'll always give it to you straight. Fast-paced, fact-based, AM 790 KABC.
We, the taxpayers, have spoken. We have made clear our goals. Now.
It's Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party on 560 KSFO and 790 KABC. We need you. Get your petition now at repealthedeathtax.com.
Come back to the Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party. My name is Susan Shelley. I'm the Vice President of Communications for the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and I'm here with Scott Kaufman, my colleague, the Legislative Director, the guy who watches the Capitol, the guy who watches. Be sympathetic that he has to watch them proposing all these terrible things so he can tell us what's going on, so we can tell you, so you can call and say, please call them and say, don't vote for that. Scott is a legislative director. He does a great job for HJTA, and the two of us are working.
And I don't even drink, Susan. I don't even drink.
Well, that would probably make you one of the few people in Sacramento who's not worried about a drunk driving arrest. So that's very good. I'm very pleased about that. So we are at 800-222-5222. This is the Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party. If you're just joining us, we are collecting signatures to repeal the biggest property tax increase in the history of California. This was slipped into Proposition 19. It took away the right for parents to transfer property to their kids without any change to the tax bill. For 30 years, you had that right, and now it's gone. And we're going to put it back because we think the voters were tricked. We think it was a deceptive campaign. We know it was a deceptive campaign. And we think everybody really needs to take another look at this in the daylight. And so you can go to repealthedeathtax.com and download the petition. It has to be printed on paper. It has to be filled out in ink, but you can download it electronically. You don't have to wait for us to send it to you, although we're happy to do that if you'd like us to. Just give us a call. So that's what we're up to here. Go to repealthedeathtax.com, sign the petition, fill out that declaration of circulator at the bottom, mail it to us as fast as you can. Make sure it's postmarked by February 5th. We have extended the deadline. Postmarked by February 5th. And it's going really well. We're getting truckloads of petitions coming in, but we do need time to open all those envelopes. This is all on paper. The 1911 initiative, everything on paper. We can't use anything that's scanned or digital or all of that. We can get you the petition electronically, but it must be on paper. You have to fill it out with ink and mail it to us. And then we have to physically deliver all those papers to the 58 different county offices. So help us out. Send it back as fast as you can. If you've been collecting petitions, great, and thank you. Please send them back right now. Don't wait, because we need time to open all those envelopes and count and sort and get everything together. There's quite a lot of paperwork in doing something like this. So send them back. Don't let them sit on the table. They don't do us any good on the table. Send them back. Let's take a call. Let's talk to Greg in Fountain Valley. Hi, Greg.
Hi, good evening. Susan, Scott, I want to thank you both for your tremendous effort in doing this and bringing awareness to us here in California about what's going on. So thank you first and foremost. My question to you guys is, I've just heard about this past week, and I already printed out the form. Upon hearing tonight that you have extended the deadline, I'm going to go around my neighborhood this weekend and have neighbors and friends and family sign the petition. My question to you is, looking at the form, even printed out full page, it's kind of a small area that's provided for the signatures and for the verifier below. Does the signature have to stay exactly within the lines of that, or can the signature go beyond the given little section of lines, or does it have to be just within that, like a formal ballot would be or something? I hope that makes
I'm
sense.
glad you asked that. The answer is it does not have to stay exactly within the lines. It just has to be legible. So we try to get people to stay within the lines if there's like 7 different signature lines on a petition, because if people are writing squiggles in the next line, then the next person's signature won't be legible. And the object is to make sure that the county workers who are verifying the signatures can read them. So it does not have to be exactly within the lines, but there's room for 2 signatures. So if somebody writes a big flourish on their signature and it goes into the next line, just make sure you skip that next line for the next voter and use a new petition. So as long as it's legible, that's all that matters. It's really important that everybody writes down the address where they are registered to vote. If you're not registered to vote, your signature won't count. So you have to be registered to vote, and we have to know which county to take it to so they can verify that you're registered to vote. So make sure you write the county in, and if you're collecting a lot of signatures and you have people who are in 2 different counties, use 2 different petitions, because we can only deliver it to one of them. So use one petition for this county, one petition for that county, and it's okay to leave the second signature blank. Don't worry about that. Just print another petition. Use as many as you need. As a voter, of course, you can only sign once. Otherwise, it's a duplicate and it won't count. But as the circulator, you can sign as many times as you need to. So you can circulate as many petitions as you want, make all the copies you want. Just make sure that each time you do the declaration of circulator, you're writing that in original ink again, because you can't photocopy that, even though it would save a lot of time. You're not allowed to. So it has to be an authentic wet signature on every petition, not just the signature, but the address and the dates and everything. It has to be all in handwriting on every petition. So it's a bit of paperwork, no question about it. But this is how we can amend the Constitution and get rid of this tax increase. Think about the tens of thousands of dollars you're saving people, individuals who otherwise would be forced to sell their family property. So
I'm right in that boat. I'm 46 and my parents are getting older, so I'm right in that margin of where that's coming to a head with my family. So, yeah, I can understand the importance of this. And just to emphasize, you're putting a lot of emphasis on making sure you understand where they're registered to vote. That county where they're registered to vote is highly, almost the most important piece,
right,
besides the signature.
Right. It's very important that we have to know which county to take that petition to after we're delivering it. So you can, if you left the county blank, we could write it in. We could figure it out and write it in. But it's helpful to us if you write in, whether it's Los Angeles County or it's whichever county it is, you just write it in and then make sure that the voters who sign that are registered in that county, because this is all about verifying that the signatures are valid. That's what all of it's about, the legibility, the squiggles that go out of the line. We just have to make sure. Also, there's a column that says official use only. Don't let anybody write in that, because the counties need that to make their notations. So it's pretty simple. It's really not complicated, but it's just important that everything is clear and correct so that the signatures count. That's the whole thing. Thank you for your call. Let's talk to Ed in Los Angeles. Hi, Ed.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. Hey, I have a question. With respect to the reassessments and the property values, now part of that increase in price of a property is due to inflation, while the part of that valuation is also due to an increase in value due to actual laws of supply and demand. So when they do a reassessment, shouldn't it be the true value of that property be minus the inflation, because that's a devaluation of the dollar.
Boy, that would be great. That would be great. But unfortunately, the government doesn't work that way. So the fair market value is what they're assessing it on. Is that the right term, Scott? Do they call it fair market value?
Yes,
Cash.
that's actually the term in Prop 13. You know, we typically say that it's 1% of your purchase price, but the actual text of the law is current fair market value. That's how Prop 13 works, right? It's 1% of your fair market value, which is usually the purchase price, and then it can't go up more than 2% a year. The problem in this case is there is no purchase price. So how do we figure out what fair market value is? Well, the assessors are likely doing what your realtor would do, right? They're running comps, and that's how they're figuring it out. And you know, comps can be, depending on renovations and all those kind of things, it can be wildly different. You know, we're hearing plenty of stories about people who, you know, they'd prepared for this, they ran comps of their own, they kind of figured out, they thought they knew how much they were going to get reassessed, then they got a letter from the assessor and it was much higher than they were expecting. You know, we're hearing stories like that all the time.
Shouldn't the inflation be a factor? Is there anybody in the state legislature actually considering that? Because that is a true, like, it's not just because you're not just getting taxed. You're getting taxed on the inflation side of that too. And I don't see anybody really talking about that. And it truly is a ripoff, literally.
It absolutely is. On sales tax too, by the way, you're paying sales tax on these inflated prices, and that's a ripoff.
Right. So I just wasn't sure if anybody was actually discussing that aspect of it within the state legislature.
Well,
I'd say I think the bad news is the legislature is who ultimately put Prop 19 on the ballot. So to answer your question, no, I don't think they're thinking about it. They want more of your tax money. That was kind of the point. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to give you a break if they don't have to.
inflation is a thief, and the government is an accessory to the crime. Let's talk to Janet. Hi, Janet. Thanks for calling.
Hello. Nice speaking with you this evening. I was looking for a petition to sign. I live in Contra Costa County, but my area I'm going to call that I'm most able to get to because I do not drive. I'm totally blind. So I'm trying to find a petition to sign in either Antioch, Pittsburgh, or Brentwood. Those are my closest areas, or Oakley. Those are the closest cities around me that I can get to perhaps sign a petition.
Okay, well, we are not really focused on setting up tables in this campaign, although some volunteer groups are doing that. But what we can do is mail you a petition. So stay on the line and we'll get your information. And
Yeah, but today's already the 12th.
But that's okay.
So-
We can send it to you, and we'll send a self-addressed stamped envelope, and you can send it right back to us, and it will count.
Okay, wonderful. Could you perhaps send two, because I have another friend who isn't able. He's right now in a convalescent hospital and can't move, or get out anyway. So
Absolutely, we'll send you a stack of them, and thank you very much for doing that. We greatly appreciate your support, Janet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call.
And the good news for Janet, right, Susan, is that there's still time because we extended the deadline.
We extended the deadline. February 5th is the deadline. So you can ignore January 16th. We appreciate the fact that everybody tried as hard as they could to get us everything, but we still have more work to do, and we have a little more time. So we're going to double up our labor in the Sacramento office to open all these envelopes, and we're going to try to get this done. If 1 million people in the state of California do this at the same time, we can do this in 2 days. 2 days, we could do this. So hang in there with us. We think we can get this done. Our number is 800-222-5222, and you're listening to the Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party. We are live up and down the state from Lake Tahoe to San Diego Mission Bay on 790 KABC, 560 KSFO, KABC.com, KSFO.com, and you can watch our backstage video on our website at repealthedeathtax.com, and that will be replayed. So if you have somebody in your family who said, I missed it, how can I see it? Repealthedeathtax.com. And that's where you can click the link that says download the petition. You'll get a 5-page PDF. The only page you have to print is the last page. That's the petition. The rest is instructions, helpful information, a financial disclosure. We have to do a top funder sheet and explain who's paying for it. And who's paying for it is your small donations. We're paying for this with the small donations to the Repeal the Death Tax Committee, a project of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. And that's how we're doing these radio commercials. That's how we're doing this advertising. We have more advertising coming up. Very excited to tell you about that. Hang in there with us. RepealTheDeathTax.com. Get the petition. Tell everyone you know. Let's take a call from Greg in Claremont. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Susan. So great to talk to you. My grandmother was a longtime donor to Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. So always great to hear from you guys and all you're doing.
Thank you.
On this repeal the death tax, I need to download this petition and do this. I'm going to do it for myself. So I'm in LA County, but my family's in San Bernardino County. Can I still be the circulator?
Yes, you can. You can be the circulator.
And then Grandma's house was in a trust. So that is correct. The trust doesn't protect you. My mom and dad are going to keep the house. But it'll be under the exclusion because they're going to move into the house and it's going to be their own. But the nuanced question I have is, an accountant told us that if we add names to a deed, to the title, so for example, mom and dad's house, if they added my brother and I as an or, would that trigger a reassessment if we did that before mom and dad died?
I believe so. I think if you do a reassess, if you split the ownership of the property, that's a change of ownership. So yes, there might be.
Unless there's an exclusion, yeah. So typically anytime a name comes on or off a title, it is considered a change of ownership. There are some exclusions, right? The intergenerational transfer was an exclusion. There's also a spousal transfer.
Right.
Like if you get married and you want to add your wife to your house, there's a spousal transfer. There's also a co-tenancy exclusion. But typically if you're adding or removing someone from a title, you're going to get a reassessment on the percentage of ownership that changed. So if it's like a 50-50 split, like you're adding a person that's not excluded through one of these exclusions, you're going to see a 50% reassessment. 25%, if there's 3 people on and you add another person, something like that. So it looks like you're likely going to get reassessed no matter what. I would also mention the fact that you said you live in, I believe, Los Angeles and your family lives in San Bernardino. Make sure they sign a different petition than the one you sign. Because while you can be the circulator for both, we're going to have to send theirs back to San Bernardino and yours back to LA. So we're going to need 2 separate petitions for those 2 counties.
Right.
But yes, you can circulate in any county. You can circulate all throughout the state of California. Any registered voter in California can sign. And people who are not registered voters but who are eligible to vote, who would like to sign, can register to vote and then sign. And you can do that right on your phone at registertovote.ca.gov. registertovote.ca.gov. And you can sign up new voters all throughout the state of California if they feel like doing that.
Absolutely. Thanks again for all your guys' work on this. It's so sad that Sacramento wants more and more of our money to help their budget shortfall.
Well, they sure do. Even before there was a budget shortfall, they wanted more of our money. Thank you for the call. If you're not already a member of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, you can join. We are a member-supported organization, and it's only $15 a year, and we welcome you to be part of this great organization and to strengthen the voice of taxpayers in California. Let's talk to Erica in Laguna Niguel. Hi, Erica. Thanks for calling.
Hi. Thank you so much for all that you do. I'm wondering how I can help. My folks are a lot older and living in Orange County, California. And I moved away many years ago. I'm out of state, but I'm visiting, and I want to know if I can help to circulate the petitions to help you get signatures, or if I'm allowed to do that.
Yes, you are.
I'm not a California resident.
Yes,
okay.
You are. You do not have to be a California resident to be a circulator. You don't have to be a registered voter to be a circulator. All you have to be is 18 years old. That's the only requirement.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to help do that. And then if I'm going to go door to door or put these like in the neighborhoods, like on people's doors, do I need to have my name signed as the circulator, or can I just put blank forms?
Blank forms, and make sure that you only sign as a circulator if you witness the signatures. Otherwise, they can be their own circulator. But if you do that, be sure you include the top funders sheet, which is in the PDF that you download along with the instructions. And the reason for that is because you'll see on the petition it says, I acknowledge that I have seen a top funders sheet and that it's still valid and current. And that's just a new law that says we have to tell you who's paying for this so that you know there's nothing sneaky going on. And there's nothing sneaky going on. This is Repeal the Death Tax, a project of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. But if you put a petition in, you might want to put the whole 5-page PDF. You might want to print the whole thing and give that to the neighbors so they have the cover sheet, the instructions, a flyer that tells them what it's about, the top funders sheet, and then the petition. I know that's a lot of printing.
Okay, so if circulating to just door to door and leaving them at the doors, the whole 5-page PDF is the best idea. And if I'm going to obtain signatures and I'm a witness to it, then I just need to have the sheets printed out for view, but really it's just the single sheet, and
Right.
I sign that. As
Exactly. But you should tape one of those, if you have a clipboard, tape a top funder sheet to the back of the clipboard so you can just show it to people. You don't have to give one to everybody. They don't, if you can if you want to, but they don't have to have a copy of it. They just have to see it. That's the law. So you can do it that way. You can circulate the petition on a clipboard, show people the top funders sheet. You can take the flyer with you that's in the PDF. It has QR codes so that people can go to the website for more information or register to vote or check their own voter registration. Some people want to know, did I register to vote with my middle initial or not? Well, you can look that up on the Secretary of State's website, and we have that in the flyer. It's voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. So you can look that up. You can also get there by going to registertovote.ca.gov. You can find all of that at the Secretary of State's website to check your own registration or to register to vote. Thank you for the call. Let's talk to Bryce in Torrance. Hi, Bryce.
Hi. I just wanted to thank you guys for what you're doing. I'm actually a real estate agent in California. I was one of the advocates that kept telling everybody to vote no against it. Unfortunately, my own California Association of Realtors was one of the big groups pushing for this. And unfortunately, this is the end result of more politics, lobbying, and greed. The association, they were pushing this because they knew that many, many people would receive these properties from their parents, would not be able to afford to pay the taxes, and would be forced to sell it, therefore creating income for a bunch of real estate agents, which I thought was horribly deceptive and wrong. There's honest ways to make a living, and that's not one of them.
Well, thank you very much for the call. We agree with you. This was a very deceptive campaign. People did not know this was a tax increase. The ballot language said something about changes. It didn't say tax increase. This is very deceptive, and people deserve the right to vote on it again, because when this was on the ballot in 1986, it passed with 75% of the vote, and we've done polling, and it would pass with 75% again. So voters deserve a right. They have the right. They deserve the opportunity to vote on a tax increase, knowing exactly what it is. And we think people will want to go back to the law the way it was, the parent-child transfer exclusion. It's so important for families that want to build generational wealth and take care of the next generation. And sometimes people have a rental home that they're using for income to pay somebody's medical bills or long-term care costs. Should they be penalized with a higher tax bill so that all those plans go out the window? I don't think so. Who thought that was a good idea? And how much of the affordable housing stock are we going to lose when these small apartment buildings are transferred from one generation to the other, reassessed to market value, crazy high, huge tax increase every year? What happens to the tenants? What happens to the small businesses like the restaurants that just barely hung on during the COVID pandemic? And now the generation passes, the kids inherit the business, reassessed to current market value. Unbelievably high taxes. How are they supposed to survive? This is terrible. We have to fix this. We have to fix this. Let's talk to Scott in Mission Viejo. Hi, Scott.
How are you doing?
Thanks for calling.
Hi. Hey, thanks a lot for what you're doing here. I just wanted to say that there couldn't be a more perfect example of a shameless, take from everybody and give to the government situation. But my specific question is, I've got 3 kids. If they inherited what we have equally, does that take the basis down, or is the tax straight on the basis?
Scott?
Say that again. So
we only have about 15 seconds, so a quick answer.
Oh, okay. Well, if 3 kids are inheriting a house, no, it doesn't change anything. It's reassessed to market value no matter what. If it's 1, 2, or 3, one of them will have to move in. Feel free to call us. We can talk more.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
So sorry we couldn't take all of your calls. Come back next Friday night. We'll be here at 6 o'clock. This is the Repeal the Death Tax Petition Party. Thanks for being with us.